I
sauce.
I wanted to start with first of all, I'm going to start with just introducing myself real quick, and then I'm going to turn the focus on over to you, Brian. So, Brian, so first of all, thank you for allowing me to introduce you to the world. I'm pretty excited about what you're putting together, and that I could even be a part of this. So, first of all, everybody, my name's Dave Dick. I have worked with Brian. I have the honor and distinction to have been able to work with Brian for 15, maybe 16 years. We've had a quite a long opportunity to work together, and he's made an incredible impact and difference in my life. And recently got a chance to really talk with Brian about where he was headed and what he wanted to accomplish. And through that process, Brian shared some interesting things with me and has decided that he wanted to share more of his knowledge with the world and help more of you achieve what you want in life. And I was excited about that for him. And we've done some brainstorming, and I don't know what Brian's going to share with you today, but I'm excited that I've got the opportunity to work with Brian and that he's made a profound impact on my life. And just to give you an idea, I got into financial services in the early 2000s. And through my career, because of working with Brian and just some of his guidance and leadership and opportunity to kick my ass when needed, eventually became a executive with one of the largest financial firms, and have now went into a private practice for myself and have doubled the business in 18 months. And I'm going to easily double the business this next year. And I did that because Brian said, get off your ass and go do something and make a difference in people's lives. And so with that, enough about me, Brian. I wanted to turn this over around on you and ask you a few questions so that everybody could get a chance to meet you and find out what it is that you do and how you're going to make a difference in their lives. Is that okay?
That sounds perfect, Dave. Yep.
Awesome. So first of all, that's the first time everybody got a chance to hear from him. That's Brian. So Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about what your company and what you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I think even to go further with what Dave, with what you said about our background, I mean, it has been, I think it's been 16 years. And I remember succinctly flying out to Portland, Oregon to meet with new clients. And well, to the audience, Dave picked me up with his wonderful, beautiful wife, Alicia, and their 3 daughters. And we went to lunch. And I remember that day like it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about our friendship, and I think our relationship that I like to share is, Dave talked about me kicking his butt. Dave has done as much for me in that sense, and holding me accountable to the goals that I established, helping me to reach and soar higher than I probably would have without him. So big thanks to Dave for being the first guest / interviewer / lead role today. So this is an honor. And I got to share one last thing. Dave and I have had some really in-depth conversations, and I wish we could have recorded those for a podcast. Me having a glass of bourbon or a couple beers, Dave with his glass of red wine on a Friday afternoon, and go until, I think one time we did 3.5 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And man, we solved a lot of the world's problems that day, and maybe created a few new ones. But
we did great times. So that's awesome.
Great times. So yeah, so obviously, as Dave said, my name is Brian Bosley. I own a peak performance consulting firm, the Bamboo Lab, which is unique because the name has been Torch Consulting for a number of years. And as of November 20th of this past of this year, we switched over to the name. November 20th was my 25th anniversary. And I didn't think the name Torch Consulting really reflected what I believe success is and really what we do for clients. So I want to share that story real quickly of where the Bamboo came from, because I want the audience to realize this is my theory and my belief about what success truly is. Where it comes from is, if you take a Chinese bamboo seed from a Chinese bamboo tree, I guess it's technically grass, and you plant it in the earth, and you nurture it, you nourish it, you water it, you get the perfect amount of sunlight on it. You do that every day. And 12 months later, no change. You keep doing it over and over again. Water it, nurture it, nourish it, sunlight. You come back, do that for another year. Still nothing. You do it for a third year and a fourth year, and you still see no change in the earth. And that's when a lot of people start getting discouraged. But what happens is between that fourth and fifth year, something magical and miraculous happens. That little tiny bamboo seed planted and nurtured and nourished in sunlight, all of a sudden it explodes through the earth and it grows 90 feet in the first 5 to 6 weeks. I just love that idea, because that's what success is. Success isn't getting these grand aha moments or doing something a little bit and expecting results. Success is about putting in the grind and expecting to bleed, to get some scabs. And in that process, you might not see growth right away, but you are laying a foundation, just like the bamboo tree. Because during that first 4.5 years, that bamboo seed wasn't just sitting there idly. It was working underground, establishing an incredibly strong, indestructible root system. So though when it was finally time to grow, that tree grew, and it grew at a magical pace. And all these other trees around the Chinese bamboo tree, all these trees, they face typhoons and hurricanes. What happens during those storms? Those other trees snap off, but not the bamboo tree. This thing bends and comes right back to true form. And that's really the concept of what I want to share in all aspects of life, both professionally and personally, is how to use that idea, that concept, that miraculous lesson from the bamboo tree and the bamboo seed. Now, success doesn't necessarily have to take 4.5 years. It depends on what you're doing, but the theory still remains true. So to go back to my history a little bit, as Dave asked me, and I got to jump a little ahead. I graduated from college in 1991, and from a decent sized school in Michigan called Central Michigan University, where I had the privilege and honor of playing on the Central Michigan University rugby team, that was the first time in my life at age 19 or 20, I realized I could be good at something. I never thought I was good at anything before that. And I realized, wow, there's something to this. All that hard work and that sweat and toil and running and lifting and practicing and traveling, I realized it finally started paying off. And so I graduated there after playing for 7 seasons, 3.5 years at the university. And I went on and I got a job. I was hired as a financial advisor with IDS Financial Services. And I used that same philosophy of grind and toil and sweat and tears. And I built myself a nice little career, primarily not as an advisor. I moved into management within my first, I think, 13 or 14 months, and just realized that was my calling in life, was to lead other humans and helping them to reach their peak capacity, not just in the financial world. I wasn't very gifted in that world. That's a complex world. I was gifted in the ability to help people change their lives. And so on November 19th of 1996, November 19th, I walked away from American Express Financial Advisors, which was the name then. By the time I left, they changed their name. And I sat down and I said, okay, what are you going to do now, big shot? And I said, I'm going to change the course of the world. And I started making phone calls. And that day, I called out of the Yellow Pages in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I primarily said to people, hey, this is what I'm doing. My first day, you're my first haircut, if you want to give me a shot. So thankfully, the first call I made was an architect. He said, yeah, took him to a restaurant 1 week later, and he signed the contract that day. And from there, we just started growing slowly, methodically, establishing that complex root system over the course of many, many years. So awesome. I mean, that's a bit of my professional history, Dave.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into some of the details, but thanks for that background. It's always interesting to learn from you, Brian, because there's layers and layers, and I get to learn more about you. So that's thank you for sharing. So hopefully you're not a Michigan fan. That's all we're actually really hoping right now.
Well, this has been a good first broadcast, Dave. I appreciate your time. So Michigan, I bleed blue.
You always share, which I always found profound, a story of attending a wedding and really honing in on life, which was a real, like a turning point for you to realize, hey, something so small and insignificant made such a big impact. I was hoping maybe you could share the story of getting some junior mints. And I don't want to steal the thunder, but to be able to share that as as you reflect, because I think, we share this all the time. Nobody changes because they're comfortable and successful, right? And which is counterintuitive, because the most successful people, right, always go through change and are uncomfortable. So it's kind of a paradigm shift that we have to think about. But you got to a point, which was what you want everybody to do, is when you have that moment, like you took advantage of it. Tell everybody how you got there and what happened. That's a great story.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you asked me that. That's probably my favorite story to share. It was actually August of 1996. And I was actually at my uncle's 60th birthday party. And I had lived, at the time I was living in Detroit, Michigan area. And in downtown Grand Rapids, there's a building called the Amway Grand Plaza. It's not very tall, maybe 30 stories, but it's a tall structure at the time in Grand Rapids. And my cousins had rented a suite for this birthday party. It was a surprise party, and we all gathered there to surprise my uncle. And the thing about the Amway Grand Plaza, it's all glass. This section was, and so it's glass from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And I have a little nephew. At the time, he was 3 years old. His name is Keen. And he was a little pistol, man. And he was a cute little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, mouthy kid who liked to swear like a sailor. And I was getting into trouble, but good mischief, And he was over there. During the party, he was running and kind of pushing and slamming his body against this glass, I'm going to say 18 floors up or so. And, I know the laws of physics dictate he's not going to break that glass. But I'm watching my mother watch her grandson do this. And my mother is a AAA personality. I mean, she is the strongest, toughest person I've ever met in my life. And I knew that fireworks were going to fly any minute now. She was going to jump down his throat. So I grabbed him and I took him down the elevator to the lobby and said, "Let's go for a walk, little pal." He was cute because we both had suits on. He was dressed up. And so I went to the store in the mall, the little kiosk they have. I bought a box of Junior Mints, and each of us were eating Junior Mints. We were walking and holding hands and talking, and he looked up from this little 2-3 foot frame or whatever, looked up at me and kind of paused, and he said, "Uncle Brian, life is all about walking, talking, and eating Junior Mints, isn't it?" And I looked down at him and I said, "Buddy, you just nailed it." Because at the time I was working as a manager with American Express Financial, and I was not happy there. Great company, but the culture in which I was involved in wasn't my kind of culture. It was a subculture within the culture of Ameriprise or American Express. And so I just wasn't happy. I didn't feel like that was my role in life. And so I was just deciding, do I stay with this comfortable position? I was being promoted. I was doing, I thought fairly well. My boss was giving me good kudos. Or do I really go out and chase my passion, my calling? And when he said that to me, something clicked. And what I did is I started thinking, okay, what is he saying? Walking, talking, eating Junior Mints. Okay. So I dissected that over the course of a few days, a couple of weeks. Walking to me means making progress, moving forward, giving your best every day. Talking means kinship, relationships, communication, showing love and respect to other humans. And eating Junior Mints means sucking the marrow out of life. It means enjoying the journey, living consciously, and noticing the great things that we have around us. And from that moment on, so 3 months later or so, I started, at the time, was Bannon Enterprise. That was the name for the first couple of years, and we switched to Torch Consulting.
It was what?
It was called Bannon Enterprise, Bannon, after a book called Calumet K, where the lead character is an efficacious man, Charlie Bannon.
Great book.
Fantastic. Yeah. Ayn Rand's favorite novel that she didn't write it, but she was her favorite novel to read. And so to this day, everyone knows my life values. I judge my life on 3 things: giving your best, showing loving respect to others and to yourself, and living consciously. And that's in the bottom of everything I have. Emails that go out, my blog. I mean, it's on everything now. And I've lived.
Say those again, Brian. Say those again.
Yes, you betcha. Give your best.
Okay.
Show love and respect, and that includes to others and to yourself.
Okay.
And live consciously.
I think the first 2 kind of seem intuitive, right? easy to say. Everybody's in
Right.
alignment, not as easy to do all the time. I think that third one probably eludes people the most, right? I mean,
Oh, without a doubt.
okay.
Without a doubt. In fact, I had conversations with two clients out of California today on that one concept, digging into their mindset and really get them to realize: are you really living on a conscious level? Are you living intentionally? Or are you on cruise control? And we got through it, and they realized they had been living on cruise control.
Yeah. Yeah. I can attest. I know what that feels like when you get honed in on that. So
Oh,
more
we all
more
do. We all do, buddy.
more on that in a bit. But so Brian, you've written some books, and tell us a little bit about your authorship.
Well, let me share with you, Dave. I've written some books. Finished some books is the real question. So, I have a strong commitment that I've been following now for the past month, and the book, the primary book, will be finished and will be gone through all of the editing process in 2022. In fact, I'm meeting with a publisher out of Florida on Tuesday morning.
Great.
So,
what's the working title so far?
At this point, I was considering calling it Monkey Trap, because we're going to talk about how to get through the difficulties in life and how do you pull your hand out of the trap and move forward.
Brian, you just threw a whole bunch of now you got to go backwards for a second. You got to have to set that up. So you can't just throw stuff out and just keep walking down the road here. So what is the monkey trap?
Oh, that's another good question. So, and I don't even know, Dave, and the audience, I'm not even sure if this is a truism or not. I've heard people say, hey, I lived in India. They don't do that. I've heard people say, I live in India, and they do that. So, but the story is there's something called the South Indian monkey trap. And what they do, they trap monkeys because the brains are delicacies for many parts of the world. And what they do is, instead of shooting them or getting a leg trap or something, they just let the monkey's naivety and ignorance and stubbornness catch itself. They take a coconut, they drill a hole in the coconut just about as big as roughly the size of a monkey's wrist, a little bit bigger. And they take that coconut and they hollow it out a little bit. They fill it with a bunch of useless things. A lot of the things I've heard is Mardi Gras beads. They're worthless. They're worth nothing. And they take that coconut, they find a well-used monkey trail, and they chain it to a rock, a stone, a log, something heavy and immovable, and they alongside this monkey trail. Well, what they know is going to eventually happen is the monkey's going to come skipping down the trail like monkeys do, dragging its knuckles. It's going to see that coconut. It's going to go explore that coconut. It's going to look in there and see, hey, cool, Mardi Gras beads, these shiny useless trinkets. It jams its hand in there, grabs a hold of those, and then now, because its hand is balled up in a fist, it can't get its hand out of the hole. You think about that, and so it pulls and pulls and doesn't get out. You think about a monkey's a fairly intelligent creature. We're not talking about a butterfly or an alligator here. A monkey's a higher primate, man. They're intelligent. They can solve problems. They can do sign language, for goodness sake. But it doesn't do that. It doesn't pull its hand out. It holds there, sits there so stubbornly, so naively, so aggressively, so greedily, that it's held captive by its own ignorance, its own inability to self-reflect. And pretty soon the trappers come along, they have a billy club, they clunk it on the head, and off it goes. It goes on someone's plate eventually. It's interesting, Dave, when I tell that story, I bet I've told that story 10,000 times. I don't know. And I'm still captivated and I'm still shocked that a monkey would not know better. I don't get it. Yeah. But, before we throw our little primate brother under the bus, I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is, I have to ask myself this every day. Am I any different?
Yeah. Right.
Are you any different? Is the audience any different? Right. We're not holding on to Mardi Gras beads, but we're holding on to crap. Old ideas, thoughts, behaviors, toxic relationships, old processes, things that might have worked for us. We're still holding on to them and we're held captive.
Yeah.
Damn well sure fucking life's going to come and snap and clump us on the head eventually, and it's going to take us away.
Oh, that's so true. And I wanted you to share that story because, based on our, you sharing with me what you want for this podcast is that you want to be raw, you want to be real, and you want to be genuine with people, and you're going to hit them in the heart and the head and the soul. and get them to reflect. And part of that, you just are sharing that where somebody could listen to that story and think to themselves on one level, it's a parable, right? So on one level, it's about the monkey, but the wisdom is to say, I'm the monkey. That's the wisdom in the story. And I think a lot of people, this podcast, Brian, if I understand where you're headed, is not directed at somebody who thinks that's a cute story about a monkey and how they trap monkeys. This podcast is for the person that goes, damn, I think I'm a monkey. I think I'm holding on to those Mardi Gras beads.
I could take that one step further. If you in the audience, whoever's listening, doesn't think you're the monkey, I would stop the podcast right now. It's not for you. This is not made for perfection, for people who are already perfection. This is made for people who are raw and people who are fucked up in ways in their lives that need to get fixed, and they want to fix it. They have the courage and the balls and the tenacity to just say, I want to be a warrior. I'm not a warrior right now because I'm holding on to the damn traps.
So true. So true. Oh, that's great. I love that's how you said it. You set this up. So you've written a book, and that may be the working title. And that's kind of the premise. Then I'm assuming that the book flushes out. What kind of crap are we holding on to? What's holding you back, basically? Are you unwilling to reflect and be brave enough to let go of the Mardi Gras beads and realize that you can get 100 Mardi Gras beads or whatever the analogy is. But I think that's the premise of the book, if I understand what you're saying. And then how do you do that? Like you set up how to reflect and go through that, correct? Or
that's exactly what it is.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm finally so proud of you to get, you're going to meet with a publisher. Like that's a big deal for you since 16 years you've been writing this one book. I think
it better be a damn good book. I can tell you that. I mean, Ayn Rand wrote Atlas Shrugged in 10 years.
I'm sure this is like bigger than War and Peace, but we'll see. I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to know how to pre-order this. So tell us a little bit about, you briefly talked a little bit about your leadership skills, but you've had a chance to really be a leader and lead others. And tell us, your listeners, a little bit about your leadership philosophy and how you've evolved and what you do now to help people lead.
I mean, thank you. I can honestly tell you when I was younger, I was the furthest thing from a leader. I was a follower. I was scared. I was insecure. Despite having an amazing family and childhood, I had a really rough couple of years of my between 4 and 6 that really imprinted on me, that made me a really insecure, scared little shit. And so I was not a good leader. I was a horrible leader in high school. I was a follower even in my first couple of years of college. And it really, when I started playing rugby and I just put a lot of my anger and pain into that sport, that people started looking to me for leadership. And I realized, okay, let's see what I've got here. And, my style back then was raw. I mean, and I don't mean raw in the sense of what I like to be raw now, raw in the sense of ignorant. My style was too straightforward with no tact. And it was an iron fist with no velvet glove. And because I didn't know how to do it, I just thought, okay, instead of being a leader, I'll just be an asshole and people will be afraid of me. I mean, I'm sure that's what I was thinking subconsciously. But my theory became over the course of years of coaching, working with clients as an advisor, then working with advisors inside of the American Express Financial, and then going on my own and then leading all my clients. And now to the point where I teach a great deal of high level leadership to my client base. It came real simple when I had to ask myself one day, what the shit is leadership really? What is it? I mean, there are thousands, tens of thousands of books written on leadership. Leadership is as simple as this. And your job as a person of influence out there, my job, Dave, your job, it all comes on to one thing. Increase their sense of self-worth. That's leadership. Increase others' sense of self-worth. When you can do that, it's as simple as that. You think about, we talk about a shortage of natural resources in our country, whether it be oil or whatever. Bullshit. The shortage we have in this country, in this world, is people don't have a sense of self-worth. That's why people get into so much trouble, and they make poor decisions. They cheat on their spouses. They turn to drugs or alcohol, or they don't grow their practice, their business. They don't reach for that highest level in life. They don't believe in themselves. Yeah. And the thing is, The thing is, David, so many people think, oh, that's a real touchy feeling, warm and fuzzy thing. No, it's not. This is not psychobabble bullshit. This is real stuff. I mean, because sometimes increasing their sense of self-worth, it's giving them the tools to become a better version of themselves. That say, I believe in you, so I want to give you these. It's giving them the motivation, the inspiration to help them along. Sometimes it means taking them behind the proverbial woodshed and giving them a good lashing because you believe in them. So it's not all rah rah, you're doing great. Sometimes it's rough.
Yeah,
that's how you increase their sense of self-worth. It's just like raising kids.
Can I share a story about you? Is that okay? A personal story about you?
For sure.
On your podcast.
I wish I would have known what it was first, though.
to hit this point, but I think this is the point you're making. As you know, first of all, I'm the raw guy, right? Like I'm the guy that doesn't know how to say something, and I'm going to take a 2x4 and smack people in the head. That's just kind of what I do, right? Everybody loves me for it. And that's kind of how my communication style is, isn't it? You like it or love it. But not too long ago, I think for everybody out there, I don't know that I made more or less than a lot of other people. I can tell you that I made a lot of money. I was doing okay, and comparative to other people, I had no worries. Was doing pretty well for myself. And Brian, you kept like bothering me. I don't know if you remember that. You kept saying, what are you doing? And I was like, yeah, but Brian, I make this, and then I have these golden handcuffs, and do you like? And Brian, you would ask me, do you like what you're doing? No. I mean, I'm good at it. There's pieces, and then you kept asking me this. Why are you settling? Why are you settling? Why are you settling? You could be doing something different. You just kept at it. Like you got in it, and you wouldn't hammer it, but you would not let me get away from it. Like you had this style that you would just constantly come back to. You talking about what are you settling for? What is your worth? What is your self-confidence in what you're going to do? And then you asked me, I don't know if you remember this, a very tough question. You said, I want you to put a date down and make a promise to me that you're going to take action on this goal you've talked about for years, and you're actually going to do it. And I'm just going to share with you, I was very afraid. Because I had a safe environment. I knew my paycheck was coming, worked for a large company, no risk on the horizon. But because I have integrity, and Brian pressed me for a promise, and you gave me the opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to make that promise to. It was mine, I had to own it. But you pressed me, and you said, here's your date, and then and I gave myself, 6 months, a year, whatever it was at the time. And as that was inching closer, that inevitability was becoming real. And eventually, when I got there, we did it. And I say we because you were the impetus. And today my courses, I'll share with you openly, I took a step back. Financially, I did, but my trajectory now is incredible. I would not have done this any differently. There's no way. Where I'm headed is absolutely incredible. And I attribute that to you because you're writing the book about what did you say? Not self-confidence, self-worth. So what you said? Yeah,
exactly. Self-worth.
And that's your leadership, but that's what that got down to, right? What are you worth? What are you doing? You want to do something different. You're settling for something else. As great as it is, you're still settling. And should you have such, much more potential than that. And so I'm just sharing this for everybody who's listening to this. Brian walks the walk and talks the talk. And when you're coaching, you actually get to that level where you make people in a good way uncomfortable because, and Brian, you know this, there's no success comes because you're absolutely comfortable. Like that's just not
hell no.
Right. So
no.
I just wanted to share that as a personal story because I am in a place today that it blows my mind where I'm headed. And I would have never probably have gotten that. We'd have still been having the same conversation over and over and over if you hadn't just said, put a line in the sand that we're not going to do this anymore. That's
I would
true
have flown
friendship.
down.
That's true
I
leadership.
would have flown. I would have flown to Texas by now.
That's awesome.
And I know you're a lot bigger than I am, but I would have. I would have put up a damn good fucking fight. I would have scratched, punched, kicked, and bitten you.
Yeah,
When
very true,
well,
very true. But I wanted to share that because I think it's important that this gets down to, somebody's listening to this, like, what does this mean to me? And I think for me, personalizing that and knowing in context what you're talking about, because I've been on the other side of that, it's real. And what you do is real, and how you help is real. So
appreciate that. I mean, to me, leadership is all about you better be willing to. If you're a leader, the people you're trying to lead, your followers be ready to better be ready to either follow you or kill you in the process, because you should never let go. Badger them until they do what you need to do, or they tell you to get the hell out of their lives.
I like your monkey stories and bamboo. I think you got this theme going on, because I don't know how many times now I have shared with people, the picture you're walking up, it's raining and you're going to an ark and you're walking up the ark and you're the ape or the monkey, and you're walking up there and you realize you're the third monkey. What are you going to do to get on that ark? You wake up every day.
And the rains are coming, baby. The rains are coming.
The rain is coming, and you're the third monkey. Like, wake up every day, realize that the rain is here, and you're walking and you're the third monkey. What are you going to do? And that goes back to, what are you willing to do? How uncomfortable are you going to get? And how much pressure do you put on yourself? So, hey, Brian, I want to switch gears a little bit. We'll get back to the leadership stuff, but I want people to get a chance to really know you. You've had, I think, a very touching story. You love your children to death. I'm going to put you in an awkward position because you gave me permission to do it. So tell us a little bit about your family, and I'm going to get to the tough question in a bit, but tell us what your family means to you, because I know that you have a deep, deep love for them and you respect them. And I just want everybody to hear what you've gone through to become a dad. All
right. Well, yeah, it's an understatement to say they mean everything to me. They are the one thing in life, the one that in my company, my philosophy in life are the things I would die for any day, take a bullet for, take a blade for, So I've got I got two biological children. Ashley, who's 34, who just gave me my amazing grandson, Jack, who's just 4.5 months old. And then I have my youngest, who's 18, named Dawson. He's a freshman at Northern Michigan University. In between there, I got married between my oldest child and my youngest. Got married, and I inherited these three amazing bonus sons who are 33, 30, and 27. I always get ages wrong a little bit. Unfortunately, their mother and I didn't survive the marriage. We got a divorce. I was granted full custody of the youngest one, Dawson, and their biological father was granted custody of them, the boys, and we just stayed close. They're my amazing, I call them my Fab Five, and now I'm dating the most amazing woman I've ever met in my life, Kelly. And she brought into my world an amazingly beautiful and artistic, creative, quirky 11-year-old girl named Adeline. I call her Peeler. And so she's now somebody I can help, and be a good, strong male role model to as well. That people, along with my mother, that's my life. That's it. I mean, that's awesome. That's the reason I do what I do every day at the level I do it. So now I'm going to hit the raw question for you. So all this is led up to here. I want people to know you, because I want them to know that success didn't always come easy for you, because I think that's important for people to know. And you went through a very dark and tough time with Dawson's mom. Mm-hmm. I think it's important, and so people just know who you are, like your history and your background. Would you be okay sharing just a little bit about that struggles and how that helped you really get into wanting to make a difference for other people like that? Because you and I talk, like, no successful people have a common trait, and that's that they've gone through something really tough that's helped define them. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, and I've actually gone through three very dark places in my life. That was the third and final one, where I would say, so I was married. We were married for just roughly 2 years. And unfortunately, when I met her, my ex-wife, she had been involved. She was in a fairly upper middle class family and got involved with cocaine. And well, it's something I've never done, and at the time I'd never seen in my life. And well, we were married. She was clean and everything. When we got married, life was going very well. We had this beautiful son, and it was about a year and a half into it, I started seeing some changes. You know, I saw some changes and behavior that was inconsistent with rational thinking and a growth mindset. And I dug into it, and it came to a head one day on Father's Day. I forget the year. Dawson was a year and a half old. She left in our yard and went, drove down the long driveway and went a quarter mile or eighth of a mile down the road to her father's house. He lived right next door to us on an alpaca ranch. And of all things, eh? And she was there. I'm gonna go see my dad, you know, wish him happy Father's Day, give him our gift. And I said, okay, baby's sleeping, I'll stay here. She pulled out the driveway, went down to his house, and about an hour later I was working in my garage and I saw her car go by, a Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee. And I called her, no answer, called her, no answer, called her, no answer. That was Sunday. On Friday, I was speaking to a company, an insurance company, and I got a call from one of our mutual friends, Lisa, and she said, I know where your wife is. Wow. She's in a hotel room in Grand Rapids. She's been doing cocaine all week. She's in a bad place. So we went there, and I'll tell the story as raw as I can tell it. We went there. The door wasn't shut, so we walked in. She was not there, but there was cocaine. There were multiple empty Chinese food, pizza boxes, and I went in the trash in the bathroom out of instinct, turned it over, and well, a bunch of condoms fell out. Oh. And so I knew that was, you know, and I got a hold of her that afternoon. I said, I was there. I saw, get home. Let's clean you up. And we did. I got her home, cleaned her up, you know, figuratively. Wow. And we stayed together for a few months. And then she promised not to drink again or do cocaine. And it was Easter at her mother's house. She was drinking wine. I looked at her and I made a decision myself. I said, they're done. So I told her we're done. I moved into the lower level of our house with my son, and she'd end up filing for divorce, and the courts granted me full custody. Wow. And wow. We hadn't seen her in 17 years until my middle bonus son's wedding this past summer. And wow. It was fine. She's cleaned her life up. She's, you know, yeah, and everything. But, you know, and I've never said a bad word to her or about her or to her, and I never will, because she gave me some beautiful, beautiful things in life. But it was, you know what that was? I saw the pain that people lived through, not just what she gave to other people, including her children and her family and myself, but the pain she was going through. And it all comes down to no sense of self-worth. You don't put that shit in your body if you have a good, strong sense of self. You don't do that. Yeah. You certainly don't let it destroy your life and your family. So it was just a big impetus.
You and I have talked about like coaching lessons that you've had to give Dawson along the way too. And as parents, we deal with that. So maybe you could, you know, somebody out there is probably had a tough situation with their kids who's probably asking the same question. Where's mom? What's going on? And, you know, what would you tell them if you could talk to them?
Make eye contact with your child. It's as simple as that. Because we are so busy in society, kids are so busy. We have all these distractions with TV and iPods and iPads, and we don't make eye contact anymore. So it's not a surprise that our kids they don't feel heard and listened to, and we can't sense somebody just from their words. It's really hard to extrapolate something from somebody's just their words. But when you're looking in their eye and they're talking, they know they're being heard. You're increasing their sense of self-worth. You're seeing things by looking into the soul, the windows to the soul. You're seeing things that you could pick up on subtle nuances that you wouldn't pick up. And give them, so do that, but also give them a foundation. What the hell? What do we have a fucking guide market? We're not born with a map and a compass in this world. We don't even know how to make decisions. No. Mine is simple. From the day Dawson was born, it was always give your best, show love and respect, and live consciously. And, you know, he had to give for his senior year, he had to give his life motto, and that's what he wrote. Wow. So, you know, it's some of those simple things. And another thing, if you're going through this, don't ever badmouth your spouse, your ex-spouse. Never say a fucking bad word about them, because all it does is it breeds discontent in the child's heart, in your own heart. Yeah. And it's like being bitten by a rattlesnake and expecting the snake to die. by holding on to that poison.
What was it that you said one time? I think you said to me something to the effect of stress and success have something in common, and they're not going to expose your success doesn't expose your greatest quality, or stress doesn't expose your greatest quality. It only exposes who you really are, and that's what you're professing right now is, hey, this is something I live and breathe and do, and it's what got you and Dawson through what I'm sure was very difficult. I just can't imagine. So very difficult.
Very difficult, very trying, dark times, very much so.
So you talked about your mom a couple times. I'm so sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No,
you talked about your mom a couple times, and I know your dad passed away when you were a young man, and your brother. Maybe you could share a little bit about your brother, the role he played, and a little bit about your mom.
I'd love to. Yeah. So my father passed away when I was just 3 or 4 months under turning 5 years old.
But everybody needs to know who your dad is, because that's actually pretty interesting too.
Yeah. My dad was a mechanic by trade. He had a couple of garages and shop work and gas stations, but by passion and by evening, he was a country singer. And he was incredibly gifted songwriter, guitarist, and a singer. And he did some small concerts with some of you might have heard of I can't think of his name. He sings Jingle Bell Rock, Fraulein, My Sweet Angel. Anyway, I can't think of the name now. Anyway,
when you come back and edit this, make sure you put
I'll put his damn name in there, Dave. But about a month or two before he passed away, his manager, who was actually my dad's best friend, Dickie Becker, he got a call and answered the phone, and on the other end of the line was, "Hi, I'm Johnny Cash." And Johnny Cash called Dickie Becker. In fact, I'm friends with Dickie Becker's son, David, and we were having drinks last year in Grand Rapids. And he says, "I remember the day Johnny Cash called our house." And he said, I want to bring Jack Bosley in. I want to do an album with him. I want his song that he wrote for your mother or for his wife. I want to record that song with him." And he said, "Here's the catch. I don't want the band. I just want Jack Bosley."
Wow.
So, and before my dad could really formulate all that and chase that passion, that dream, he dropped dead of a heart attack November 4th, 1971.
Wow.
So,
wow. Kind of a famous guy. So what happened with your family from there? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the beauty of it, I'm the youngest of 5 children. So my oldest brother is 13 years older than I am, 14 years old. And then there's 2 between him and my sister. My sister's the next youngest. She's 7 years older than I am. So obviously I was not planned. I slipped past the goalie. So I was the youngest, and in some ways the least impacted by his death, because I didn't have years of memories with him. But in some cases more impacted because I didn't get those years with him.
Sure.
But the beauty of it is my mother is, like I mentioned before, strongest human being I've ever met. And I can't say enough about her. Love and respect I have for her is beyond anything I could mention. So my mom, she rallied the family. She went back to worked at the Sendiness Laundromat, a small town laundromat in the upper part of Michigan, our hometown, and worked there for 60 years. Well, she had been working there part-time a little bit before my dad passed, but she left. They shut it down a couple of years ago, and she had 60 years in. So she really rallied. My mom, she stepped up and just raised some amazing children. And I'm proud to be one of them. And I'm a mama's boy. I will tell you, we communicate every single day, and she's 86 and a half years old, and you wouldn't know it by seeing her or being around her. But she raised us to have grit and toughness and understanding of other people, and in a very progressive way. For being the early 70s in a small town in Michigan, she raised people who could be open-minded, who would think on their own and not judge other people by their color of their skin or their sexual orientation, but really just judge people based on their character. And it was an amazing journey, and it still is with having her as my mother.
Yeah, and I know that people have turned that into a cliche, but you're a living example of that's true. So Brian, I wanted to ask you, you've had the experience of starting out in leadership, or being in leadership, or being in management more accurately, and then going into leading and helping other managers, and then evolving into helping other people become better leaders and become leaders in their own right. What have you learned along the way?
Well, it's not easy. I mean, leadership seems so damn easy from the outside. You know, when you're sitting in the stadium watching the man in the arena, it looks simple. When you're in the arena and you're battling, man, it's a difficult process. And to me, leadership, you're not born a good leader. That's bullshit. I don't know of anybody who was born a great leader. Yeah, some people might have some innate qualities that could make them a good leader, but to be that incredibly amazing, great leader, it's work, man. It's constant study. And what I'm surprised at so often, Dave, is I see these professionals and I ask them, well, okay, they hire me or we talk, well, what are you reading? Oh, I don't have time to read. I'm sorry. You are living far below your peak capacity in life if you don't read books. It's the number one source of knowledge. And every study shows it. You can watch TED videos, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to audibles. You're going to get great stuff, especially from this one. You're going to get amazing stuff. But to pick up a book, your retention is a great deal more because you're visually seeing it. You're holding it in your hand. You're kinesthetically, visually being stimulated, not just, through your audio senses, so fucking man, put time into it. Expect it to be a pain in the ass. Don't expect it to be good. People are not going to follow you. They're just not. There's no reason to follow somebody else, and if they do, you know who they are? They're all the people that were like the young man I used to be would follow anybody, anywhere who led them. That's who you're going to get. And that's not how you build an empire. You build an empire by leading the people who are the hardest ones to lead, the most skeptical people who are bullheaded and stubborn like Dave Dick. That's what you lead them. Then you can build an empire that nobody can ever tackle and topple down.
Brian, what's your biggest goal right now?
I think that without saying monetary things, I can tell you that I'll tell you what and this is a question, Dave, you pondered, asked me a few weeks ago, where do I go in the dark times, or where's my dark side or something? And then you phrased it, and I said, well, I can tell you what my biggest fear is.
That's my next question. That's so funny.
Okay.
Great.
Do you want me to go with that one?
Yeah, no. Yeah, go with that one.
Because they tie together.
Good.
So, my biggest fear is I'm going to die at 110 years old. I've already decided that one. And when I die, my biggest fear is I'm going to sit in my deathbed and realize I did not reach my peak potential. I wasted all that energy that God or the universe gave me. And that is the largest crime, sin I could possibly imagine. Oh. And you phrased it really well, Dave. And it's stuck with me, is being afraid of dying on your deathbed and meeting the man you could have been.
Yeah.
I love that. That's sunk in. So that's my biggest fear, is meeting the man at my deathbed that I could have been. My biggest goal, said on that same phone call, it's meeting on my deathbed, meeting the man I could have been, and it's me.
And shaking him, because you say this, like shaking his hand and looking him in the eye and saying, "That's me." And you say that all the time. We had that conversation, but what kind of prompted that was you say all the time, all of us out here, we've got enemies, we've got problems and conditions, and I think somebody, a friend of mine, Ed Kelly, once said, everybody you meet, every person in this room has 86 problems. Every person listening to your podcast has 86 problems, exactly 86 problems. And if you don't know what all 86 of those problems are, you have 87 problems. So, and because the reality is we all have, the issue is we all have problems. All of us have problems, but you always said the biggest problem is the one in the mirror. That you master that one, and then everything falls into place. So it's a simile to what you shared there. When the ride is done, you can meet yourself in the mirror and know, you've left it all on the table, the mat. You've laid it all out.
I love that. What I look at, Dave, is life is about pain. Call it what it is, man. There's nothing, the whole world, our entire lives are about, it's about pain. It's managing pain. It's deciding what, it's choosing pain. And we spend our entire lives trying to run from pain. And good
Totally.
luck. Good luck. Fuck it.
Well, what do you say? You get a choice on pain. Share everybody, because you post that periodically. And by the way, Brian, if maybe you could quickly share how people can follow you.
Yeah, sure. So on Facebook, you can follow the Bamboo Lab, and it's the same on Instagram, the Bamboo Lab. We're going to be these are newer sites. They're developed. We're posting and advertising on those, and they will become more and more prominent as we go along. We'll have more and more raw material. My private site is going to be going by the way of the buggy whip here soon, because I'm not going to be putting a lot on that, because I think this is material that should be for people, not for the general audience, but for people who want to grow, who are not perfect already.
Yeah. So Brian, but you always used to say, what was you say? You have your choice of regrets. I think that's how you start that, right?
Yeah, it's choose your pain, and you have two types of pain in the world. You have pain of hard work, toil, grind, and sweat, tears, and blood. That's its choice. You can make that choice every day, and you don't have to make that choice, because that choice kicks your ass, man. That choice hurts. When you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go running in the snow, or you get up and go to the gym, or you decide to make 3 more phone calls to prospects that day, or to put in some more hours, or for me to sit there and write for another 300 words. I hate that stuff. So you can choose that pain. But I'll tell you what, you're going to be rewarded right away with a big bunch of pain, a bunch of scars and scabs. It's going to hurt. But if you don't have to choose that pain. You could just choose the pain of not doing those things. And you know what? Quite frankly, those things you get paid off right away. If I choose not to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning and work out, or write an extra 300 words, or call 3 extra clients before I leave, or prospects before I leave the office at night, or whatever it might be in life, taking your son outside and playing catch, or taking your daughter fishing when you're exhausted, tired. You don't have to choose that, because guess what? When you don't choose that, you are instantly rewarded. You get to lay on your fat ass on the couch and watch TV, and drink a beer and smoke a cigarette if you want. That's beautiful, man. It feels great. You could do that. But if you don't choose make that choice of pain right now, that choice of pain and hard work and toil and sweat, and blood and tears, life's going to choose the pain for you later on. And that's the pain of regret. So there's only 2 types of pain: hard work and regret. That's it. And the thing is, the pain of hard work and sweat and toils and blood and tears, as I like to say, it hurts right now, but it doesn't last long. And it's a growth pain. It helps you to grow. The pain of regret, it waits a little bit longer, and it tricks you, because it says, hey, you choose me, I'll let you sit on the couch and smoke and drink a beer and watch Netflix and get fat and eat ice cream. So it gives you a reward. But guess what? It catches up to you right away. And when it does, that pain of regret is eternal. It never goes away.
Yeah. And Brian, I got to share that you are one of the most giving people, because I have relied on most people picking the pain, or the short-term pain, because I'm not a very talented person. Everybody who's ever met me knows I'm not very bright, good looking, talented at all. But I will share with you, I rely on people picking the short-term satisfactions and living with the pain of regret. That's my secret to success. And you're going to go and blow it all up, because you're going to go teach people how not to live that life, which is, I regret you doing that. So I'll keep a few people out there for you, Dave.
There
you go. I got a couple more questions for you before we wrap up. One, what are the 3, and you only get to pick 3. What are the 3 most impactful books you've read?
The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, Jonathan Living Siegel by Richard Bach, and the third one is High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard.
Awesome. Any learnings from those that you would expect people to go get?
The Fountainhead, you're going to learn to be yourself, man. Do not compromise the person you are inside for money, fame, or any other wealth, nothing. You stick true to what you believe in. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you're going to learn that you don't want to be an average seagull who fights for scraps on a fishing boat. You're up there trying to soar and break world records in the sky. And for High Performance Habits, You're going to learn the techniques that the top 30,000 producers and peak performers in the world do on a consistent daily basis.
Awesome.
And if you follow it, you will not be unsuccessful.
I know you're always pressing everybody you coach and lead. What are you reading? What are you reading? Here's a book all the time. So I love that about you. Brian, in the last few minutes here, I want to give you the opportunity. If people don't go back and listen to this, lots of gems you dropped. Lots of gems, lots of ways to think. That's your hallmark. How can I get you to think differently? How can I rewire you? How can I get you to get the groundwork? It's all about the bamboo, growing, doing the tough work, dirt work, so that you can explode. In this society, everybody loves the hacks. Everybody loves the secrets. Everybody loves the what can I do with this? Could you leave everybody with maybe one or two takeaways as you've coached a lot of people? And I know you have a diagnostics and you can get people up and going pretty quick. You just picture you're sitting across from somebody today you've taken them on, you're going to coach them. So they're listening right now, but you're going to take them on, you're going to coach them. What are the two things they could do today to start making a difference? Like, what would you coach them to start taking action to go do?
First of all, I want them to find out who they are. I mean, so the deal is, Dave, with the day you're born, for the first few years of your life, for most children, you have a true peak identity. You might not consciously, you're not consciously aware, but you are raw, man. You are pure. You are at your best, man. All of a sudden, parents tell you something different.
Yeah.
Your teachers tell you something. Your professors, media, your friends, now social media. The world tells you something. It adds all this bullshit on you. And all of a sudden, that true peak identity you had, now you're walking around with a fake ID.
Yeah.
The fake ID. And Michelangelo says it best in his quote, "I saw the angel within," and I'm going to butcher it a little bit. And I saw the angel within the marble, and I freed it. That's what he did. He looked at a piece of marble, a block of marble, and said, "I see the angel in there." And he chipped all the things around it that weren't angels, and then the angel was there. Wow. And that's what we all have. We have all this shit that's glommed onto us. And the first thing you have to do is identify, when you wake up in the morning and you put your feet on the side of your bed each day, who do you identify to be as a human being and all the roles you play? Because that who you identify to be, Dave, it drives everything. It drives your entire life. Everything, every feeling, every thought, every word, and every action you take is all driven by that ID. And if your ID is fake, which I'm guarantee it is for 99.9% of the viewers and listeners, we got to find out what that one is. Yeah. And I need you to, so I would recommend what you do is you sit down, you list all the roles you play in life: husband, wife, financial advisor, leader, whatever, friend, son. And you tell yourself, if you were the best you could be at that, what would that look like? And you write that out, and you put "I am," and you write that, you type that out, and every one of those roles, and you read that to yourself aloud every morning within an hour of getting up, and right before bed within an hour of going to bed. Let your conscious and subconscious mind take over, and your brain will literally physically change. The cellular and molecular structure of your brain will change, and you will begin to feel, think, behave, and talk like the person you are, the true peak identity. Yeah, but that's Brian, the first thing I do.
Wouldn't you have to give up a lot of what you're comfortable with to go take that next step?
Oh shit! I tell you what, most people won't even do the exercise. I don't think the listeners here are like that, but if I walked out and told 100 people at the mall today to do that, maybe one would try it. Yeah. And that one might give up because they have to give up a few things. You have to chip away the marble that doesn't represent the angel. And we're so stuck on that marble, man. We love that marble.
True. Very true. What would be the second thing? We're getting ready to say that.
Get off this podcast, jump on Amazon, or go to a bookstore and buy a book. And finish reading it within the next 30 days. Buy a book on leadership, philosophy, physics, self-development, professional development. Hell, buy a fictional novel that will challenge you a little bit. Yeah. Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand, Calumet K. I can list, and I'll be on the new website being developed. We'll have a list of books ongoing on there that get my 4.5 or higher star rating. It's not hard.
It's interesting that the listeners may not know, but they will come to find out about you, that you are a voracious reader. Not just, don't put Brian in a box and think, hey, that's just a personal development guy. Like that's where you're a voracious reader and very philosophical, and you read across the spectrum: fiction, nonfiction, self-development, history. You're kind of all over the board. So I know you practice what you preach when it comes to reading.
Oh yeah.
So,
but for me, it comes natural. I love it. I got to share this because it relates to that so much. Is if you want to communicate effectively, whether it's the written word, oral word, whatever, you have to be a reader. You have to read, because otherwise you don't know how to formulate sentences and you don't know how to speak prolifically. And I have this, we have this, Kelly and I have an ongoing joke. Kelly's a very fancy person. She's very coiffed, very sophisticated, very intelligent. I'm not. I call her fancy cat. She calls me barn cat. And one day she said, what you are? You're a barn cat, but man, you're a wordsmith. You can formulate words in your speech and when you write that I never saw before. She goes, you are a wordsmithing barn cat. And so, yeah, I'm not a personal development guy. I'm a barn cat, man. I eat food off the floor sometimes. And I can do raw, stupid stuff. But the fact that I can read, I can hear other people's opinions, their stories, their struggles, their stripes, their challenges, their growth, their successes, I can incorporate all that. And I'm sorry, if you don't read actively and voraciously, you are not going to reach your peak in life. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so true. What's your goal for the podcast?
To be the largest podcast in the world and beat out Joe Rogan.
I would expect nothing less. You're gonna smoke dope and all that good stuff too?
Yeah, I probably should. I might have a beer or bourbon every once in a while.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
A little Buffalo Trace whiskey would be good.
Yeah,
one of these,
Yeah.
But in all actuality, Dave, I want to change one person's life.
Okay.
I know by doing that, I'm going to change 10,000 and maybe 10 million. And I'm going to share one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life, and one of my dearest friends that I've only seen a couple of times in my life. His name is Dave Dick. Many of you have heard his voice tonight. He gave the greatest idea a few weeks ago. He said, you know what you need to do? You need to collect 1,000 letters from people who changed your life, who you helped change their life. And I said 10,000. And he said, you got to tell people this. Anybody who texts you, writes you, or emails you, any written form and tells you how you've impacted their life, you print it off and you put it on a wall. And so right now the current push is 10,000. Dave, you came up with the word with this idea, 10,000.
I love it. I love it because now I'm picturing you, at the end with the journey well run, and you're surrounded by letters. And I think that's a life worth living, Brian. I think you're fully capable of doing that. So I don't have more questions for you because I think your listeners or the people here got an opportunity to learn a little bit about you. Is there anything you want to share in addition to what we've covered today?
Yeah, I think the last thing I could say, Dave, is that anybody who listens to this podcast, this first initial kickoff podcast, we might get one listener, we might get 1 million, or we probably will get somewhere in between. I'm okay with it being one listener. If I've changed your life, I'm okay with that. But whoever is on this podcast will be very consistent. We're still working out the bugs. It's going to be weekly or bi-weekly or whatever. You are going to get the best that I have, because I have 25 years of coaching. I have to really watch my tongue and my level of intensity when I'm talking to a client who's paying me a substantial amount of money. I'm not doing that here. This is my podcast. So you're going to get me barn cat and all. You're going to get the wordsmithing barn cat, and the content. And what we're going to do is we're going to commit to every listener, to like every single time we're going to present to you raw, powerful, consistent content. Raw, powerful, and consistent content. That's where you're going to get it every time. If I don't think the material is powerful or raw, I'm going to scrap that podcast. It's going to be this at a higher level every time. So I would say anybody who's out there, jump on in. You'll be following us on Spotify, iTunes, all these different platforms, and invite people. The more if I can help one person, I'm happy. If I can help 10,000, I'm ecstatic. If I can help 10 million or 100 million, well, I've done my job on this earth.
Well, I, for one, Brian, and blessed to have consider you a friend, very close, personal, deep friend of mine. You've made a huge impact in my life. I hope people are listening to you and that they allow you to make a big difference in their life and impact in their lives as well. Again, real quick, as we're wrapping this up, how can people follow you? How can they learn more about you?
Well, I'm going to give you 3 points of contact. Actually, I'm going to give you 4. I'm going to give my cell phone number out here.
Wow.
I would and I would recommend you text me and leave your name and what you're looking for. At my phone number directly to me is 616-366-2789. 616-366-2789. And that's the same number my mother calls me on and my children call me on. And my beautiful, lovely woman, Kelly, calls me on. The other source of contact is my email, which is Brian with an I, Brian at bamboolab3.com. That's the number 3, not spelled out. And that 3 stands for the 3 mottos of my life. Give your best, show love and respect, and live consciously. Brian at bamboolab3.com. Or feel free to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. The more the followers, the more people we can impact. And let's go change the damn world, man.
I love it, Brian. You're the man to do it, man. Well, I have appreciated this, sir. And be blessed. And everybody out there, go make a difference in somebody's life.
Thank you, Dave. Give my best to Alicia and the family. And I love you, brother.
We love you too, bud.